So I feel like this is an interesting one because it's not something we've talked about a lot together. Kind of along the same lines as like imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
which we can kind of get back to because that's been a big one.
Yeah.
Throughout my life and especially like lately. Um, but just sort of the idea of self doubt, and I mean it specifically. I guess I'll start with kind of a story, I guess, but or an example is what happens with me a lot, especially when I've had like THC. So maybe if I have like if
Oh.
I get really high at night, like I'll like have a few edibles before bed a lot, and sometimes it happens. I think more often when I am high than when I'm sober, but there's almost like voice of just being like who do you think you are kind of
Oh.
voice. And I think, and for anybody who's listening to this, even if it's your first time, you've probably like if you're finding this, you probably realize that we're doing things a little differently, um, outside of the mainstream. We're kind of creating our own path and following our heart and our journey. And I think specifically along those lines,
Mm-hmm.
where there's something about like when everybody's going one direction and then you're kind of swimming against the current or going your own way and going a different direction.
Yeah.
A lot of times I have this voice in my head that'll just be like why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Like it works, just go with it. Like you're completely wrong on this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this doubt just like creeps in and like it used to destroy me.
Yes. I know what you mean. I think it's really interesting. I've never heard this from you that it happens sometimes after you've had THC. That's really interesting.
And kind of in the same way where I think a lot of people get paranoid.
Okay.
I
was
think
just
I
gonna
get
say.
that, and I used to. I remember like, because when I was younger, I never smoked or
No,
like
I
never
didn't
hardly
either.
ever like a few times in college.
Well, I think also we grew up in the era of like, don't do drugs, and marijuana was labeled like a hard drug. Like it kills brain cells and this, and it was, the DARE program.
Yeah,
like
the son of a DARE cop.
Yes.
I didn't touch drugs.
I mean, this was 30 years ago,
Right.
though, and like the scientifically backed studies about how beneficial marijuana is for you is just like astounding. And I was the same way. We just were petrified to take it. But I feel like we're going off a little bit, and then we'll just
it all makes sense.
Yeah. I think I was so afraid to try any type of edibles, marijuana, vape pens, anything because of my anxiety. Everybody used to always say, like, this is going to make you panic, you're going to lose control. And the thing with us high-functioning anxiety people is it's all about control.
Yeah.
But as I began working on myself, I realized I needed to relinquish the control. And once I started to release that control of every aspect of my life, it allowed for space for me to take the, edibles or THC, CBD, any type of, sleep aid.
You freed yourself up to explore.
Yes. And it was like, okay, there is nothing to be afraid of this. I don't need to be in control. Like, if anything, it's like the most relaxed, subtle feeling. So I've
Finally
never
let the control go.
Yeah, so I've never experienced any type of negative banter or anxious feeling like at all on this. So that was my circle around. Like,
I think it is really interesting. So there was a few times like I would every once in a while, especially like I would smoke I smoked a few times in college, and it was like always like when I was drunk. And I'd be like, it would just sort of like push me over the limit. It'd be like, okay, I'm gonna have a couple hits of this joint, but then I'd be like passed out somewhere.
Yeah.
I was a different person back then. But then I remember there was one time when I smoked when I hadn't been drinking. It was actually a great day. I was down in Pennsylvania, went to an amusement park, and like smoked in the car before we went in. And I remember we were all walking into the amusement park and I had forgot something. So I'd ran back to the car by myself to get something out of the car to go back in and meet my friends. And I was so paranoid. And I was like super high, and just all of a sudden I was like, all I could think is like, everybody knows that I'm high and I'm going to get in trouble. And it was like this crazy, like just like loop in my head. And I was like, that was the first, and I think one of the only times I've ever really had like the anxiety or like paranoia from THC. But it's interesting because that, like what you're saying, like we were raised to think like this is bad, it's a drug. So I wasn't smoking that day for like the benefits. I was just smoking to get high.
Yeah.
And experience something high, and it just amplified what was inside. Is this paranoia and fear?
Yes.
So now, like, you do it, I think, without any fear.
No, exactly.
So the fear isn't going to be ramped up because it's non-existent.
Yes. And we've spoken to people who, especially older people that we're close with, who haven't tried any type of marijuana or CBD, that are highly anxious, that are on edge constantly. And they're like, no, I don't want to do it because I'm going to freak out. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I agree. Like, if you have that perception of what it's going to do for you, of course, it's not going to be beneficial. It's literally the placebo effect. If you think that it's going to make you anxious and spiral you, like, don't have it.
It's going to amplify. But along those same lines, this is what I'm talking about, is that I've always had this voice, this sort of like, this imposter syndrome, this sort of like low self-worth. And I'm so far beyond that now, I feel like, as far as just like my inner dialogue and I carry myself. But every once in a while when I'm high, it will be amplified, right? Like it will be louder.
Yeah.
So I think it's just an interesting side note. But the point of the conversation has nothing to do with THC. I think it's just something, it's interesting that does amplify it.
For you.
For me. And what I guess sort of like the voice I'm talking about is just like this, like I said, like self-doubt. And this idea that like, I'm not an expert. Who am I to be coaching people when I don't even have my own shit figured out? And just kind of that loop. Yeah. And it's something, like I said, I've always dealt with this voice and had these thoughts. And I've got to a point now, and I'm kind of almost like thankful that I've had these moments where it really amps up with the THC, where it used to crush me, and I used to spiral into believing it. And now I have enough awareness to know that just because I think something doesn't mean it's true. And that I have separation from my thoughts. So when it does happen, I almost enjoy it now. Where it's like I get excited. Yes. And I have this moment of like, thank you for showing me where I need to explore things.
Yes, work on yourself.
Yeah, and whether it's working on myself or if it's just a concept that I want to coach, but I need to explore deeper, and I need to know every side of it, and I need to know why I'm questioning that, whether that is just like my analytical mind being like, this doesn't hold up, or if it's something deeper and it's a worth thing. Yeah. But I think it's really interesting because those thoughts can be crippling. Right. And you can be on a path of trying to improve your life, and then something, whether it's your ego, whether it's it could be a voice of a parent or a voice of a teacher that told you at some point, like, don't be an idiot, do it this way.
Right. I think that we have to kind of almost take a step back and go deeper where is this voice coming from? Because it's not yours, your true authentic self, the you that is you with a capital Y, like your true being, like, is limitless. It has like the utmost potential to do anything. Like, that is what we're gifted with. Yeah. But it's the conditioning and the programs that have happened literally since we were in a womb, meaning, the mother's body, that we're downloading all of these self-limiting beliefs because we fear what could happen in that, like, unknown state. So it's very interesting because I think everybody struggles with this self-doubt.
I'm sure to some extent. Yeah.
Yes, and it can be, but I honestly, even as we're growing and maturing and being able to recognize these, thoughts that perpetuate constantly in our heads, I don't think it's going to stop. It's going to lessen. Right. And we're able to recognize it. Like you said, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, I have this limiting belief. I have this doubt within me. Thank you for showing up because it's something that I haven't integrated yet. Like, what is
Right.
this? Dive deeper into it, where so many people shut these out. You know, they're listening to music constantly, podcasts, watching TV, scrolling endlessly, shopping endlessly. Like, we're able to distract ourselves.
Yeah.
But when we distract ourselves, then we're not able to listen to our thoughts.
Right.
But those thoughts are our teacher. And I mean, I get this all day, every day. Yes, I'm petrified to... I have very much the same thoughts. It's like, who do I think I am to put myself out there with the thoughts that I have, that yes, I'm not an expert. I haven't done, you know, nearly as much work as all of these teachers and, you know, mentors that I'm looking up to. But it's as if we have to start somewhere, because
Yes.
if we're keeping this in, then we're also keeping in like our gifts that we are naturally given, to share this experience. You know, the people who are the ones that are, you know, knowledgeable and wise, like they've been through it. It's like they've experienced it, so they're able to talk about it, but they've had the same limiting beliefs that we
Right.
do. And it's like we're so afraid to show it because of getting ridiculed, judgment. And those are what you were talking about, that are placed upon us, like not directly by any means.
Right.
They're by parents and siblings. Like, how many
Yeah.
times did your brothers probably tell you you're stupid or don't do that? And I'm not trying to
Yeah.
make that like bad. Like, that's like, kids don't know. We don't know that.
Yeah.
But it's also like, we don't know it then, but it's kind of like we've got to figure it out. And this is what we're figuring it out now. It's like,
That's right,
okay,
yeah.
these voices in our head aren't us. There are teachers, our clergymen, like the coworkers. I mean, this isn't just something that happened young. It happens young because that was, you know, 20, 30, 40 years ago, however long. But it continues our whole life, like through presentations,
Yeah.
through our work groups, through our friends groups. I mean,
Yep.
it's all of these perpetual thoughts. And I mean, it's like WTF, like what the is going on? But also, thank you for showing me this.
Mhm.
Like, this is a hurdle that needs to just be overcome and integrated.
Yeah. It's like you're saying, like we agree to these things, whether it's consciously or subconsciously,
Right.
throughout our life. But then, whether we know it or not, every single day, and even every moment to moment,
Mm-hmm.
we're choosing to reinforce it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're choosing to perpetuate that story of who we were and of our cultural conditioning.
Right.
So then when you try to make the conscious choice to make changes, there's still the subconscious element, and whether that's like your ego, whether it's just memories popping up,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that is, there's a strong cultural and, you know, it could be religious, it could be familial pull
Right.
back to who you used to be
Mm-hmm.
and who you've been conditioned to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's for me, used to be a really big problem, where like I'm like, oh, I don't want to offend my parents and my teachers and my brothers and
Yes.
my town and my state and my country and all these things. Like, I'm supposed to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And you live your life making all your decisions based on I'm supposed to be a certain way.
Yeah.
And then when you do realize it's time to consciously make that change, it's hard because there'll be, even when things are going really well, you might have these moments of like crippling doubt.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, like, they don't get past that.
Right.
And it's like everything will be going great, but at some point you're reminded of who you thought you were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just get sucked back into that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's really just patterns.
Right. Is exactly what I was saying before. You said it
Yeah.
beautifully. It's so interesting to look. It's almost like you have to, well, it's not almost, you do have to reprogram your mind. I mean, this is like
Yeah.
Joe Dispenza's work, and I feel like I want to credit like the Expanded podcast and To Be Magnetic, which is Lacey.
Mhm. Is he Phillips?
Phillips is her last name, yeah. Which really helped us because she basically gave like guided meditations / hypnosis techniques to uncover those subconscious beliefs that you don't even know are running because you push them down, you push them down, you push them down. You know, like if someone says, oh my God, why are you wearing that pair of jeans that makes you look fat? Like I'm giving examples of myself and it's like, holy crap, I can't wear this type of jeans ever again because it makes me look apparently big to some person. And I mean, that's a very silly vanity, you know, example, but probably one a lot of people can relate to. But I pushed that down so deep within me that I didn't want to bring it back up. But it's like, unless you're confronting what is so deeply buried in that subconscious, you're not going to know. Like, you're just going to believe that, oh, I'm not worthy of starting the business. Or, oh, I'm not worthy of this lover, like this partner in life. That he's too good or she's too good. They're too good to be true.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. Like, the universe is giving you this for a reason. Like, a lesson's there to be learned. Like, grasp it, take it in. Now, again, we are not experts in this field. We're learning this little by little each and every day. I think it's important to become aware of them.
Yeah.
Like, your self-limiting beliefs and those doubts within you aren't real. They seem so real and the hurt feels so real. Yeah. It's getting over that you are not your thoughts. Yeah. They're just a byproduct, usually of your conditioning or someone else's thoughts. You've adapted this for some reason. And then, like you said, you agreed to it in some way.
The example you just gave was perfect, where somebody told you something and you adopted it as a belief.
Yes.
And then that person's voice in your head became your voice.
Yes.
And you didn't separate the two. You just adopted their point of view, which was based on their experiences and their insecurities and all their shit.
Yes.
And you just like unwittingly accepted it, and you don't question it, and then over time you reinforce that as yours. Yeah. And you own it. And then that became your voice and your opinion of yourself.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to say, you said beautifully, like, when you become aware of it, then you become responsible to it.
Ooh, yes.
And this is one of those things that just like came to me one day. I don't know where and how, but it was like this term. Like, once you become aware of it, you're responsible to it. And then think about,
can't ignore it anymore.
But then, like, what does responsible mean, right? It's the ability to respond. Ooh. As opposed to react. So up until that point, to stay on this example, because I really like it, every time you would try on a pair of jeans, maybe, you would react to this other person's opinion that you had adopted in yourself. Once you became aware, you became able to respond. So then you could try them on and be like, oh, maybe I don't actually look that way because I was basing how I look in the mirror right now on somebody else's opinion of the body I had 15 years ago. Like, could not be less relevant to you in those jeans looking in the mirror. So the awareness gave you the ability to respond, and then that responsibility becomes something like you need to handle.
Yes. I think that, wow, I love that you said that and explained it that way.
That really well.
Yes, I think that it's, wow, I feel like I need to take that in. It's very, very interesting because we're also running on programs.
Yes.
And what do we do most often is just react without even taking a second to respond or think. And I mean, I do that to this day. I want to have word vomit when someone says something that I don't agree with or anything. I think it's such an interesting concept, the self-worth and limiting beliefs, because I guess I didn't realize how poorly I thought of myself until I began getting healthy, which is a weird thing to think about. But I think that as we started this journey, over a decade ago, and I started eating better and working out more and like taking care of myself, that opened up avenues for different information and perspectives to come through. And as I became, getting healthier, I think that a lot of this is tied to my weight. Obviously, we've talked about this on the podcast, coming like off of an eating disorder, my worth was so tied to my appearance. Mm-hmm. But once I started, eating better, working out, and like looking better, I was able to almost believe in myself in a way that no one else believed in. But I'm saying that because I was listening to other people.
Right.
Like once I saw it in the mirror and like felt it and like, literally feel it on my body, like my legs and my stomach and my arms and like the way that clothes fit, I was like, okay, so the programming that was running in my head was not true. This is not something that's true. And if that's not true, what else isn't true?
Exactly.
So that's
so powerful.
Yes. And I was like, okay, great. I've never felt better. I've never looked better in my life. I'm not trying to sound like egotistical by any means, but like that I've never been able to say that in my 35 years of living. So that is a huge mindset shift. And I'm using that as an example because I think a lot of people struggle with body dysmorphia and don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Regardless, then once that was kind of taken care of, and mind you, I still struggle with this daily, that, but I also know that like these are limiting beliefs and I let them come when it comes to body or food or images, and then it's like, okay, I still have a little bit of work here to do. Thank you for reminding me. But on to like starting the business. Holy crap, was that a really tough challenge for not only me to get over, you, and then as a couple.
Yeah.
Because I also, unlike you, I worked in corporate offices. So it was that 9-to-5 grind. It was what everybody else, or at least the majority of people do. And it was safe and secure, and I like knew it, and everybody told me that that's kind of what I should do. Like my friends, my family, the people who I worked with, like schooling, especially when you go into school. That's kind of like what you're taught. You're taught to get a degree, you're taught to go to college, then you're taught to get a job and then get married and have a family. Like,
right. This is the cultural conditioning.
This is the cultural conditioning you're talking about. Now, mind you, I did not go to I don't know what the schooling is like now, right? We've graduated college how many years ago? Like 15 years ago or something? Over that.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it's like now. So I'm not sure if they're kind of better equipped to handle like a changing world, and they're like, oh, you should like create your own business or do your own thing. But I didn't, that wasn't almost like an option for me. Also, I do think that ties into familial conditioning as well. Like none of my family really is entrepreneurs. We kind of all have like that blue collar 9-to-5 type of job. So it's really scary. It's not like people weren't like, don't start your own business. How on earth could you do that? It just like, I picked it up from like just conversations that were having around me. Like no one ever told me that I was going to fail if I did that, which again is an indirect way. But imagine people who do get that face-to-face from people, friends, your mom and your dad who say, what are you doing? Don't start your own business. Go be a lawyer or something like that. Or I guess lawyers kind of have their own business because they do work.
That's interesting.
Well, because you have to start your own law firm and get your own clients. But
it's different.
But
there's a path there.
That's my example is, you're just picking that. I've just picked this up from society, and I had so much doubt, and I still do.
Yeah.
But it's not a bad thing. I at least know now that it's like, okay, this is not me. I am very capable of running a business. I'm capable of learning each step of the way. New things happen. The world changes. There is no constant in this world other than change. So being adaptable, and I think that that's one of the reasons why we started the business. The 9-to-5 is obviously, since COVID, we can see is already diminishing in that capacity. So having the luxury to be able to create something on our terms that's going to evolve with our journey.
Yeah.
Because I think that when I think back working in, offices and a corporate setting, I knew I needed to get out at a time. I didn't even work in that long, maybe 10 years or so. But I knew it wasn't for me. but I'm so grateful that I did it because it gave me like a structure. I was able to see what I didn't want.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, like you're saying, that voice is like, well, why on earth would you stop working and getting a regular paycheck to basically zero income and having to like grind for something that you don't even know is going to work out?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because deep down I know that this is right. This is my truth. This is what I feel. Yeah, okay, I'm not, a bajillionaire right now, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And it doesn't mean that it can't happen. So limiting belief, limiting thought, like step aside. Thank you for showing me like what I need to integrate. But yeah, I think that's kind of...
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the lesson is, I guess, first recognizing that your thoughts aren't all yours.
Yeah.
That they're just there. And you can go literally like from the happiest thoughts ever to like the saddest, most depressive thoughts in a minute or faster. Like it happens instantly. So they clearly can't be you. Like you're just observing them.
Yes.
And then you can start to go deeper into, well, why are the patterns of thoughts happening? Where are those coming from? And you alluded to like there's a lot of different ways to kind of go internally and discover that.
And I think of a lecture that I listened to from Abraham Hicks. If you guys don't know who Abraham Hicks is, it's Esther mm-hmm. is a channel, and Abraham is the voices that she's channeling, the higher kind of. I don't want to label them anything. That's just a channel that's tapping into a frequency, just like any other channels. But anyway, it was basically like, what is a belief? And a belief is just a thought that's on a pattern.
Yeah.
It's on a loop. When you think it, the law of attraction is going to bring it back to you because like attracts likes. So if you're on this loop of I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, eventually you're going to believe it because the thought perpetuates itself over and over. So that's what we both touched upon is reprogramming it. It's like, it's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, we've been reprogramming our brain for 2 years now, but it does happen more quicker when you allow it to. It just depends on how deep that belief is. Like if it's something like, oh, I can't start a business. I mean, that is ingrained over decades.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, wait a minute, I didn't win at this hand in poker. But okay, if you don't attach yourself to, oh, I'm never going to win the hand in poker, it's much easier. Like, I'm trying to use
it's a good
simpler
example. Any like quote unquote failure, you can either attach yourself to the outcome or you can take it as a learning experience. And that hand, even if you lost that hand of poker, you can still become a better poker player because of it. Because now you have more experience and more understanding. And that's how you can look at everything in life as something to learn through.
Yes.
An experience that is informing the version of yourself you're becoming. Yeah.
Yeah. I think another thing that's really interesting is along the same lines of like limiting beliefs, self-doubt. We're kind of talking about things. And I mean things as like tangible things like weight loss or starting a business. But it does happen on an emotional level too. Because like, I feel like as like a recovering people pleaser, it's very much like I didn't have self-worth. I didn't have like any opportunity to set boundaries because I was petrified if people wouldn't like me. So it's like, hey, do you want to come over and, have lunch today, the friends? I'm giving this as an example. This didn't happen. But it's like 10 years ago, I would have been petrified to say no.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Even though I didn't want to and I had to say, yep, definitely. Because I didn't want that person to be mad at me because I had some sort of limiting belief in myself that if I said no or didn't want to do something and spoke my truth about it, that person would not like me anymore and wouldn't be my friend.
Yeah. So it's like the scarcity, right? It's like I only have so many friends. I need to hold on to them. I'm going to do everything that they want
Yeah.
so that they like me.
And then I lost more and more and more of myself. So it's like this never-ending cycle.
Yeah.
And again, it was that thought, that pattern of belief of, oh my gosh, I don't have self-worth. You know, I really, you know, it's like the funny thing, I really don't have a lot of girlfriends.
Because now you set boundaries.
But like to your saying, it's like, oh my gosh, no, if I said no, I'm going to lose someone else. And that's one more person like down on me. Like how can I even like fathom that? Now I say like, no, I think it's very apparent. Like I'm telling you right away if I don't want to do something. But it took me a really long time to do that. And I think like, think about all of the times where either you haven't spoke your truth or you've agreed to something that you actually disagree with, or you've committed to something that you actually don't want to do. Like that is part of that limiting belief that like, for some reason, why do you feel like you can't speak your truth? Why do you feel like you can't place that boundary? And I do think that comes from the people pleaser, be the good girl.
Yeah.
Like this is hugely a thing in like Catholicism, and like do it like speak only when you're spoken to, say yes, smile, put a smile on your face, like have that facade of like the good girl, like always do it and always agree with like what your parents say, what your elders say, what your siblings say, like do it. And it's like, holy crap, like it's exhausting to be someone you're not.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Ugh. And it's like, and I think that's really when people talk about becoming free, that's what it is. Like we're constantly putting these masks, this baggage on ourselves to cover up the authentic true self, capital T, capital U, yourself, this person that we are in divine in all aspects. And then the conditioning has just told us who we shouldn't be. Don't do this, don't do that. You can't do that. You should be this way instead. And then you adopt that as your identity. Yeah. And that's what becomes so debilitating in your life, that how do you even know who you are? Because all you've heard is don't be this person. So then you have to try to pretend to be someone else, even though you want to be this person that you were told not to be.
You're hiding who you really are and wearing all these masks and just like putting on a facade for everybody. Yeah. As opposed to just being yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's really what I'm in right now. I think what we're in, I don't think that's ever going to stop. I don't think we're ever going to not be taught by our conditioning.
Right. There's just a new lesson. Like
exactly. Yes. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. I'm way more at peace now with the understanding that, oh my gosh, okay. Layer by layer, I can strip down, like to do it all at once, like to become someone that you want to be immediately after having the recognition of your limiting beliefs and your ego self-protecting. I mean, that's just not going to happen. Right. It takes years of unraveling, because it took me 35 years to be this person that I'm not. It's going to probably take me 35 years to become the person that I want to be. Maybe a little quicker, because I at least can recognize it, and I'm able to understand that the world around us is my projection of inside. So working on that. But it's like, it's so interesting, because when you listen to the negative thoughts in your head, they usually come after something that you know is true. It's like, okay, like I can envision like our business thriving, like our big house, and then it will be like a minute of bliss, and then it'll be like, well, yeah, but you have debt, and you have kids, and you have all these things, you have responsibilities, you can't do that. You're not gonna be able to do that. Like, who are you? You didn't take business classes, like blah blah blah. And it's like, what part of me is scared to receive what I'm asking for that I know will happen?
Yeah.
And that's kind of hard to unpack, but it's like, I know this is going to happen, but my beliefs are telling me it's not going to happen. But why? Like, what part of me thinks that it still isn't? Is it my scared little inner child? Is it my shadow? Is it my ego? Now they're all connected, and that's too much to get into. But it's like when you know you can do something, you know your body's capable of it. You know your mind's capable of it. You know your heart, in your heart, that it's gonna happen. But it's still, you're on that like panic, anxiety, like, but no, I can't.
Yeah. You justify your imagination.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, oh man, I wish I had $100 million. How would I get $100 million? That's so much money. Well, what if I had $10 million? And it's like, what? You can imagine anything. And you're like already like before, at least I don't want to say you, like I will catch myself imagining something. And then before I'm done imagining it, I'll like temper it into and like push it down into this box of
something lesser so that you don't disappoint yourself when you get it.
Yeah. Or that like you're not going to disappoint the culture and the people that told you that that's what you were going to be like. And it's not like I know that my parents wouldn't be mad if I had $100 million. But part of me is like, well, who the fuck am I to have that much more money than they do?
Yes. And
it's so I'll temper my expectations.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is my imagination. I'm gonna imagine it exactly how I want it. Or I'll like think of like a car. Like, well, a car is probably too expensive, but I could get this one that's similar.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like I'm not like at the dealership right now and only have this much money. This is like I'm just daydreaming.
Isn't that crazy?
And it's insane. About? Yeah. But that's.
Well, everybody says that like that's what anxiety is. You're like worried about an outcome that hasn't happened yet, and I have to laugh about it because I'm anxious to this day. I mean, I'm so much better than I were, but you're constantly looking at the bad in every situation. You're like hyper vigilant on everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, that's exhausting. And not to mention, like, I don't want to get deep into this. That's not what this podcast is, but that literally kills your health. Yeah. It puts your nervous system into a fight or flight 24/7 when literally the only time you're supposed to be fighting in that fight or flight state is like a quick acute stress to get over it just as quickly as you got into it. Like if you were running from a saber-toothed tiger for 10 minutes and then you hid for 7 hours and you're able to regulate it. But that hamster wheel of fight or flight, constant anxiety, constant limiting beliefs. I mean, it is no joke. And I really wish that I could like give a substantial, like, okay, do this and it's going to help. And it's like, I can't do that because I've done so many different things that this only works for me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the best that I can do right now to help anyone else is talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think putting this stuff out there because I also don't want to convince people this is going to take forever. Like it's taken me 37 years to get to this point and like 10 years of like actively trying to unlearn the previous 27 years. But that doesn't mean it can't happen in a flash.
Right.
And I've also had moments of like flash, I get an idea and take a huge step forward. And then all these things that I struggled with for years don't faze me anymore.
Right.
And then there's just new lessons to be learned. It's like you get to the top of a mountain and realize that on the other side of that mountain are bigger mountains. And it's like, okay, I can go down and it's going to get really hard. And then I can climb up again as a higher mountain.
Yes.
And then your view is going to be of more mountains.
Yes.
Or it's never ending.
Yes.
You'll never get to a point when you're done. So don't expect that.
Yeah, exactly.
But enjoy the process.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like an example that I maybe want to give is doing something like out of the ordinary or that scares you from that limiting belief. So it's, I'll use the example of an outfit again.
Okay.
Like it can go for men, women, he, she, they, anyone, like anyone. If it's, oh my gosh, I'm about to step out of the house in an outfit that I typically wouldn't wear. Like, this is something that, like, I can express myself creatively the way I want, but oh my gosh, maybe it's not what society deems okay, or that, like, my friends or family, they're gonna, like, I've never dressed this way, what are they gonna think? That is a debilitating thought.
I love this example.
And then you put on that outfit, you friggin' rock it, you walk out that door, you go to a restaurant, a bar, someone's house, a house party, whatever it may be, your office, I mean, whatever outfit this is. Yeah, maybe you'll get a look, maybe you'll get a compliment, maybe you'll get, ooh, what are you wearing?
Yeah.
But if you do it and you stay in that outfit for, 5, 8 hours, however it is, at the end of the day, You take it off, you put it in the laundry. You can say to yourself, I did it and I didn't die.
Yeah.
I didn't collapse. It wasn't debilitating. I did it. That is what we're talking about when it's reprogramming your mind. You have to have some sort of either memory that you're programming or a limiting belief that you're programming. Yeah. And that's why I feel like the example of the outfit is a good one.
I think it's a really good example because everybody can relate to that. Like you've also, there's always been those times where you try something on and you're like, I love it. You like want to like dance around in these clothes, but then like when it's time to like put it on to go out somewhere and you put it on, it's like, I don't know, and you like get all like worked up and then find yourself changing.
Yes.
And putting on something more what you think people expect you to wear.
The safer version of like, okay, people have seen me in this, they kind of know this is how I dress.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
All that does is reinforce a pattern of not just being who you don't want to be, which is what that really is.
Yeah.
You're being the version of yourself that you don't want to be.
Exactly.
But it's also reinforcing a pattern of quitting on yourself.
Yeah.
And disappointing yourself.
Yeah.
Because part of you really wanted to be the version of you that wore that outfit.
Yes.
And when you quit on that, it's the same as like if every time you start something, you quit and don't finish it. That becomes who you are.
Yeah.
And you get used to it and the chemicals your brain releases are going to be really excited to start something, but then lose interest and quit. Mm-hmm. Like all these, like everything you do is feeding a pattern.
Yeah.
Whether it's serving you or it's not serving you.
Yeah.
So having that, putting on those clothes of the version of you that you want to be and going out in them.
Yes.
Is taking a huge drastic step toward becoming the version of yourself that you want to be, your higher expression, the version of you that can accomplish your goals.
Yeah. And I think that I used this example, might be a little silly, and it's a small one, as opposed to, someone who like wants a major career change. Like I'm a nurse, love being a nurse, but it's like, it's taken a toll. I've always loved cooking. I want to go to culinary school and be a chef. And it's like, whew, that's a big jump. And if you've got that limiting belief, it's not as easy to do within a day. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But if you're in that situation, doing little things that scare you is gonna make your self-worth go up. So it's going outside in a different outfit. It's like, another example, I'll use another example of mine. I used to be petrified of spiders. I mean, petrified, I had arachnophobia up the wazoo. Like, if there was a spider in our apartment, I would call you at work crying to come home and kill it.
Yeah.
It was bad. I was like, this is not healthy. Like, this is not... I realized, okay, it's just a spider. It's part of nature. We are all connected. Like, this spider is not my enemy. We are one. I'm going to befriend the spiders. And then just over time, I tried to become more comfortable with understanding that spiders occupy this earth just as we do. And to see one, acknowledge it. You're divine as I am. I'm not going to kill it anymore because that's what I used to do. But I would get closer to one. And I would see one on the floor and I would try to get closer to it. And that was allowing my brain to reprogram itself in the way that, okay, this spider is not unsafe. I'm okay. I can do different things. I don't have to be someone who's petrified of spiders anymore. So something just a little than that I think has helped me a lot with achieving the bigger goals. It's like, do something really, really, really little that scares you 100 times before you make that big leap to something that you want to almost like get your feet wet. Like dip your little toes in the water first. Like do a couple things that are out of the ordinary to get you basically to build up your confidence and your self-worth, because those little steps I think do help.
I have an example too. First I want to say it's like choosing intentional growth over unintentional growth.
Oh, yeah.
Because everything is always changing. And in order to survive in a world where everything's changing, you need to change too. And you're going to need to grow and evolve in certain ways. Yeah, we're not
it's not the 1800s, the 1900s anymore.
There's no staying put. Things are going to change and they're going to change fast. And you need to keep up and you need to learn and you need to become. a version of yourself that's capable of surviving in that world.
Yes.
So you can either resist change and fight it and fight it and fight it, and what happens there is usually a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Either, like you mentioned before, like disease, like if you're repressing all these emotions and not dealing with them, it's going to manifest in some way as probably disease and, issues in your body.
Sure.
Or you're going to call negative things into your life. You're going to get hit by a car. You're going to be in a bad accident. Like something's going to happen where there's a crisis and a rock bottom point, and then you're going to be forced to change against your will.
Yeah.
Or you do exactly what you're saying and you seek out discomfort and you seek out opportunities to test yourself and change and unlearn your patterns and programming so that you can become that person without the crisis.
Yes. And it's not easy.
It's not easy at all.
It's hard, but it gets easier.
Yeah.
It gets easier. You've just got to do those couple things.
Yeah. Along those lines, like as you're doing those things, it's going to be uncomfortable. And there's going to be moments. This is kind of how I started out the show. It's like, I am choosing intentional growth. And then every once in a while, there'll be this voice of like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Just go with the flow of everybody else and you're going to be fine. And like, you're just making shit up. You're annoying. Like whatever the voice is going to come and get you. So what this reminds me of for years.
Oh, is this an example that you're going to
Yeah. I had a cyst on my head, and some people probably know about it. I'm sure some people noticed it at some point. A lot of people didn't. I was really self-conscious of it and would cover it. I would comb my hair was shorter then, but I would comb my hair across it.
Yeah, it sat right at like your hairline.
Just a little, right on the hairline and the top of my forehead. I don't even know what side it is anymore.
I don't know.
It was like off to the side on one side. It was this side. It was right here. So I would comb my hair across to like almost like coif it so it would like block it out. But it grew. It started out small, and over years, this thing got bigger and bigger and bigger.
It looked like a horn. No offense.
Yeah, it was literally. It was like a little off center, but it was kind of like a unicorn or like a rhinoceros. It was probably about the size of a quarter in diameter. If you're in America, like American currency. But yeah, it was like at least like an inch wide.
Yeah, it was big.
And it protruded, at least an inch. It was like half a golf ball sticking out of my head. And for years, I was really, really self-conscious of it. I would notice people looking at it when I was talking to them, and their eyes drift up, and I'd be like really uncomfortable. But I didn't have health insurance, didn't really have a lot of money. We had started this company, and we weren't making a ton of money just yet. So I didn't ever go see a doctor, and I don't go see doctors. Another thing about me is I don't go see doctors, which is going to come up in this story as far as growth. So eventually it got to a point where I couldn't handle it anymore, and was like looking into...
because it began hurting you.
It was hurt. Like there were things I couldn't do. It would hurt. Like anytime I bumped it, it hurt really bad.
You couldn't wear hats.
Hats I couldn't wear. I couldn't do like I stopped training my neck because I couldn't do neck bridges because it was like around my forehead. So it was in the way, and it was ugly. So I started looking into ways to get rid of it, and one of the ways was like a hot compress, and you just put a hot compress. I think I was like 5 years too late for that. I tried it a little bit, didn't really do anything, and then everything kept saying like apple cider vinegar, apple cider vinegar, apple cider vinegar. I'm a huge apple cider vinegar fan. I think it's a magical elixir, and people, if you're not drinking apple cider vinegar every day, you should be. You can also use it as a topical treatment for things like cysts. Mm-hmm. So I had this huge cyst, and what I decided to do every day was I would soak cotton balls in apple cider vinegar, press it against it, and then bandage it. So I had this bandage across my head. Now I just wear headbands over it so people couldn't see it. But for a couple of weeks, at least, probably close to a month, to be honest. I probably did it for too long. Yeah. But
3 to 4 weeks.
So I would keep this, and I would just constantly, as the cotton ball dried up, I would repackage it, recover it.
At least 2 or 3 times a day. Yeah.
And I want to say real quick, this is not medical advice.
Oh my God.
If you have a cyst, do what you want.
Yeah.
Do not blame me
Yeah.
or say that I did this.
Yeah.
This is what I did.
Yeah, this is not advice for anybody who like needs to remove a cyst.
Yes.
Like no. Seek a medical professional's opinion. Dan just Dan knew in his heart that that wasn't what he was going to do. He was going to handle it himself.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a really good way of putting it. So I did not want to go see a doctor for this thing, and I knew that my body was capable of healing itself if I gave it the tools it needed and I helped it. So my helping my body was to put apple cider vinegar on this 24 hours a day. I would sleep in it. I would like redo it every couple hours. I would soak this thing, put a new cotton ball, soak in apple cider vinegar, put it back on, keep it tension there. And eventually it started, I was like, okay, it's starting to shrink a little bit. And then it also started getting scabby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This thing's getting scabby. Something's happening.
And like the scab was like a black
Yeah.
scab. It wasn't like a white scab.
It was crazy, yeah. It was a dark, thick, like strong, solid scab. And I was like, hey, something's happening. Trusting the process. And I was really good at trusting the process for most of this.
Yeah.
So I put the thing on and I was like, oh, it's all scabby.
Because then the scab just kept getting bigger.
The scab got big. So I guess say like the cyst was about 1 inch wide. The scab became about 1 inch wide. It was like the whole face of the cyst. And I would keep doing it and keep doing it. And then one day I decided, after it was probably about 3 weeks,
it was
maybe closer to a month.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to pick off the scab because it's getting huge.
Yeah.
And I'm going to see what happens. And I start like ripping away the scab. I realized that as I got the edges of the scab loose, as I would pull on it to try and rip it off, I noticed that underneath it, the whole cyst was moving.
Oh my God. It was freaking crazy.
And at that point, it had shrunk a lot. Which is crazy.
Much.
This thing, like I said, it was half the size of a golf ball, and it shrunk down to way smaller.
It was probably like a nickel.
And maybe even like a dime. And it's scabby, really scabby on one side, but as I was picking at it, I noticed that I could pull it all to one side and see behind the scab was like a fresh cyst.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so cool. I'm going to keep picking at it. And I noticed it was getting looser and looser, almost like a loose tooth.
Yes. We're going to have a new series. Instead of Dr. Pimple Popper, it's going to be Dr. At-Home Cyst Removal. Just kidding. Yeah. Although any networks, we're happy to hear your pitches.
Yeah, and I do have some videos.
Yes.
Maybe, we should probably try to put up some of these videos.
We'll do the videos. Yes.
But yeah, as I noticed it started moving, and I could kind of get behind it.
Oh my God.
And then, like, I just went for it.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on it. It just seemed right, and I ripped the whole thing out.
Oh my God, it was insane.
And it was nuts. It was such a crazy feeling. Like, I wish that everybody could feel it, because it was so, like, exciting, scary, and liberating at the same time. It was like to have this thing out after years of like hating it. It was so nice to like pull that thing out.
Yeah.
But when I pulled it out, there was a hole.
It was a crater, to say the least. And just from my experience, I didn't feel your emotions, but I felt mine, because I was basically watching you perform surgery on yourself and was like, holy bananas, what the F is going on? Like, I was really trying to stay calm for you. Because
you did a great job.
Because once you took it out, like when I say gaping hole, like that's an understatement. Like it was like, holy shit. Like it was legitimately a hole in your head. There was no hair around it because that came off with the scab.
A lot of the hair had fallen out where the apple cider vinegar was. And then there were also, when I pulled the scab off, or I pulled it out, there was literally like hair coming off.
Yeah. And then like you had the cyst in your hand, and it was like just looking at it, like, oh my God, that was in his body. That was like, mind you, again, like you had said, it had shrunk so much.
It was hard and it was small. Yeah, it was crazy. Like the apple cider vinegar did something amazing.
Yeah.
And it fully released it, and like there were no roots, there was nothing left.
Nope.
But there was a hole, and when I saw the hole, I freaked out, because the whole reason I wanted to do this was because it was this unsightly, ugly lump on my head that I wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I just went from a lump to a hole.
Yeah.
And like, this isn't good. I panicked.
He like panicked to the umpth degree.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, like we do have people that we know who listen to this show, so that that you'll know Dan. Dan is very calm, cool, and collected. Like, he's not an anxious person. He's not someone who stresses, or like, if he does it internally. But this was all out. Holy shit, I need to go to the emergency room to get stitches. And I was just like, I didn't say anything at first. I was like, okay. And all you kept saying is like, we need to go down the street right now to the ready med or whatever, like the 24-hour, like, quick medical thing. Like, I need stitches right away. Like, yes, 100%. If you walked into a hospital, like, this is a gaping hole. Like, anybody in their right mind would be like, yeah, you need stitches.
Yeah. This is sort of the point. This is why I wanted to tell this story.
Yeah.
Is for a month or however long it was, I completely trusted in the process. I'm like, oh yeah, my body can heal itself. Apple cider vinegar is amazing. Everything's going to be perfect. Nice, smooth sailing. And then I had this moment when I took it out and there was this hole. And I'm like, for the rest of my life, I'm going to have a hole in my head.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like a fresh cut in the same way. Not the same, like if you cut yourself and you're like, okay, I can see that healing. This was like a crater. It was like somebody like slammed a ball off my head and just like put that indent into it.
Yes.
And I lost my faith in the process.
Yeah. That limiting belief stuck in.
So this doubt of like, well, who do you think you are? You're not a doctor. Basically got me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I need to go get a professional right now. This was a mistake. I need stitches so that I don't look like an idiot for the rest of my life. And you were just like, no, like, you made it this far.
Yeah.
Your body can heal itself. Like,
okay,
well,
I know.
I'm sorry. I don't want to steal.
I was going to say I was much more gentle.
I don't know.
That is not true. I said to you, just take a breath, because you were literally hyperventilating. I said, take a breath. Like, you have to realize what you just did to your body and what it's done for you through this process of taking it out. I said, if you want to go get stitches, I will walk with you to the ready man. They said, yes, I will be there. If that's your decision, I will go with you. Yeah. I said, but realize what you just did and the capabilities of your body. Like, this will heal. Let's take a minute. Let's get all the blood off. Let's just dry it for a little bit. Because I did also say it was literally a hole. And I made the point that if we go get stitches, they're going to stitch it where it closes. It's going to look like almost like a hot dog. And that is gonna, do you know what I mean? And like that, I was like, that's gonna in and of itself scar. Like, just take a minute, just take a breather. Like, let's take a couple. And then you were like, all right.
That was it. Yeah. So you did, okay, maybe you were more gentle. No, you were definitely more gentle than I put it. But that's like the message that I got was stop being a bitch. Like, trust yourself.
Yeah.
You've got this far.
Yeah.
You can finish it.
Yeah.
And I like stopped, took a couple breaths, and I was like, all right, we'll just cover it again.
We covered it with the gauze.
And let's just do the same thing without the apple cider vinegar. Put a bandage over it.
Yep.
And then just like let it heal.
Yeah. And then even the next day, right? Yeah. You woke up that next morning, because you did it kind of later in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it had already started to fill in.
Yeah.
Which what I mean by fill in, it was almost like it was healing from the bottom up.
Right, yeah.
That it wasn't encaving.
The hole got smaller before it sealed.
Exactly.
And it just kind of, and then it started to like almost at the same time, like the bottom came up as the skin came together.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now you can't even tell. Like,
no.
I can like rub around and feel and kind of guess where there's a scar, but it's under my hair. My hair grew back.
Yes.
You can't really tell it's there. And like, I have a lot of hair, so it's like it's covered up anyway.
It's like, that's how intelligent our bodies are. Mm-hmm. And that intelligent of our bodies is the innate intelligence we have as well, as long as we get out of our way.
Yeah.
Like, our mind is the master of illusions, and it wants to keep us safe. It wants to keep us in that limited belief because that's all it's known. But if you get out of your own way and step aside and just let your true self work through you, like your little self, it knows, man. It knows. Yeah. It's literally healed perfect. Like, no one would know this unless we told the story right now.
Yeah, there you go.
So get out of your own way.
Yeah, and when you do have those moments of doubt, like I said before, like we both kind of said, like, instead of just being like, oh yeah, you're right, I should stop, just be like, okay, thank you for pointing out something that maybe I need to explore more deeply, and stay on your path. Trust yourself. Like, you chose that path for a reason. Mm-hmm. Like, whether it's removing a cyst or starting a business or
dressing crazy.
Wearing a new outfit, trying to get in shape, whatever the thing is, there's going to be doubt along the way. That doesn't mean you're wrong. Maybe it just means like you're starting to veer off your track, and need to like reassess why you're on that journey.
Yes.
So that you can make sure you're going the right direction.
Absolutely. I think that that's so empowering too. I think that if we could all adapt the thoughts of acceptance and love as opposed to those critically like damaging thoughts. Again, it's not easy, but it's going to be so beneficial in the long run.